I want you to tell me, Ray, about like the some of the challenges that have come up for you, like being at home and working from home and training from home. The weather is super crazy today, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I woke up in the morning and I was like, whew, woke up to
It
like
was
loud
like
noises and
it was sunny for a few hours early, and then suddenly there was like this crazy wind and just proper sandstorm.
yeah.
Like my door wasn't locked shut and it flew open.
Your door wasn't locked shut. What do you mean by that?
Like the balcony door was just pulled shut, like I
Oh,
hadn't
okay, okay, okay.
latched it. And it like flew open. I was like, oh my God, we're all gonna
What is up
die.
with you and like dying? Like, I
What do you
remember the first
mean?
time we had a podcast, you were talking about a zombie apocalypse. Now you're talking about like everyone gonna be dying in like what, a hurricane, a sandstorm?
We're all gonna die one day.
Well, we are gonna die one day, but we don't need to be constantly reminded about it. And like,
But have I told you about all the past life stuff that came up in my Biofield tuning sessions?
yeah, you did about the woman on the hill, right?
Yeah, well, I had another one come up in my last session. I was a guy in that life, but it's like so crazy
Hmm. At least there was
in
a guy
this
in one
like,
life. Anyways, go on.
but it's crazy because like we all have this like fear of dying. At some point it's going to happen, but the idea that we have these like and this like our spirit, that's our soul, that's kept coming back and back and back, like
Yeah.
what sort of history we've inherited and what unresolved trauma comes from those different lives and stuff as well.
Wasn't I supposed to get like a session as a birthday gift?
Yeah, you didn't tell me when.
A long time ago.
Trying to hook you
I'm
guys
so
up.
intrigued. I am
Yeah.
so intrigued. So go on. So there's this guy.
Um, yeah, well, no, I was a guy. I died. I was really sick. So the whole session was like around a lot of it was like integrating the trauma of the death. So it was like in that, like the traumatic thing that was in that life was about his death experience and being alone and away from family, and no one was there while he was dying, essentially. And it's like, I think a lot of the thing with the end of lives is like, that's obviously a very traumatic experience. And if it's ended in a hard way, when that soul then moves through into other lives, like that part hasn't been resolved.
Yeah.
So then, did you ever read Many Lives, Many Masters?
No.
Like that's a really incredible book, but he is a therapist that's working with a woman, and it's a lot of this like past life stuff that comes up. Like he would essentially, that book is his discovery that like past lives were an actual thing, because it wasn't something that he believed in until working with this particular patient. And he was like, oh my God. And now he's done a lot of research and written multiple books about it. But in her present life, she had all of these, like, she seemed like real crazy, like terrified of like confined spaces and terrified of water, and so completely like seemingly irrational things. But then under hypnosis and doing past life like regression stuff, it turned out like she had drowned in a previous life. Like that's how she died. Which meant now she had this irrational fear of water but it was this trauma from a past life that she'd never had never been resolved. So it seems like this crazy thing that I'm just afraid of right now, but it's actually grounded in something much deeper. Interesting stuff.
Very interesting stuff.
So maybe that's why I'm interested in death.
Don't worry, you won't die alone. You got friends.
Well,
They're right here.
at this point, I might.
Listen, you have friends and family. You consider us family. I know you do.
I was laughing about this with a client the other day because we're now doing virtual sessions. So this is one tip. As a coach doing virtual sessions, you should definitely have your client's phone number and home address, because imagine if something happens and they fall and hurt themselves whilst you're on a virtual call, but you don't know where they are to be able to call for help to get to them.
Very good point.
That is a life tip I learned. None of my clients have been hurt.
I'm just going to follow up with that. I'm like, how did you learn that lesson?
We're all fitter and stronger than they were going into quarantine. But that I had this moment when one of them was trying something new for the first time, and I'm thinking, oh my God, if he falls right now, I have no way of getting help to him.
Well, that's a pro tip for you. That's what today's pro tip Thursday. Let's go pro tip Thursday.
It's Wednesday. I've been doing this all day. I'm so confused by what day of the week it is.
I have no clue of what day it is. Okay, let's get back to the question you asked me before, and on the lines of like, what are the challenges that I'm facing working out or in business, or and how am I staying motivated? So, I mean, we're going to repeat this, but be a little bit more concise. But I don't really need the motivation to train. I've never been that kind of a guy. I've always loved training for the feeling that I get after. So I've been a fat kid growing up all my life, right? So it's like from those years of like being like really overweight. So it's just, you know, when I train, you get that euphoria, you get that feeling, that adrenaline rush, that you know, you feel like you can take on the world. I train for the feeling after, and not for like, I gotta de-stress, you know, which some people do. When I'm stressed out, that's the last thing I want to do, is work out and stress my body out even more. If I'm stressed out about something, I want to fucking find a way to fix it. You know, that's the way I deal with things. And I think challenges, yes, there are tons of challenges at home, just given that, you know, it is an Indian household, and you know, growing up, being raised in Toronto in the strength and fitness industry, nutrition and health was number one priority. Like, there's a lot of emphasis and a lot of importance given to nutrition and health, and that's just who I was. That was the number one priority. Like, eat well, sleep well, train hard, drink enough water, and then, you know, of course, go about your daily life. But I mean, in the household that I live in, it's not the number one priority. I find myself constantly like reminding people, like, stop eating like junk. If you're not going to work out, if you're not going to use the carbs, stop taking excessive amounts of carbs. Yes, carbs are part of like life, and that's what it is, and in moderation. But you gotta, like Charles Poliquin always said, like, you gotta deserve your carbs.
Yeah, earning them.
Yeah, you gotta deserve them. You gotta earn them, right? And you know, constantly, you know, teaching people about. And the thing is, like, I've taught this like at least 50 times, that, you know, there are chips, and then there's rice, or there's like brown rice. Like, you know, there's a big distinction between the two of them. Not all carbs are created equal. Carbs are not just carbs. They just don't go in your body, because like the shit that goes along with it, pardon my French, but like the shit that goes in it, you know, so that's basically the challenge that I face, right? Like, they love their rice, they love their carbs, they love their rotis. They, like, the family is getting better, but like, you know, constantly having to knock them, or constantly having to tell them to train or like work out. And it just, that's I mean, the thing is, you want to be surrounded by like-minded individuals. You want to be surrounded by people who are taking care of themselves. You want to be surrounded by, I think, I'm a stubborn ass. I'm a very, very hard-headed person. You know that more
And
than
attest
anyone
to
else.
that.
You know that more than anyone else. So, like, I don't need people to motivate me. I don't need people to tell me, like, that it's, I can cut people off and I can move on with my life. It's not, but it's just seeing your loved ones not supporting their own health, in the right way is, like, I find that as the biggest challenge. That me
Yeah.
being, like, I was a health educator for so many years, strength and conditioning coach. Now I run a strength and fitness company. And then you have, like, you know, there's different levels, right? There's, like, levels of not eating right. There's levels of, like, sitting all day long. There's levels of, like, laziness. There's levels of, like, not mentally challenging yourself enough. Like, there's
Mm.
so many different things. I'm doing all that stuff. I'm training 7 days a week, 6 to 7 days a week. I'm fucking working my butt off from morning to night. I'm reading books. I'm learning a new language. Like, there's so many things that I'm doing. I feel the challenge is more like, I feel like I'm in my own bubble and
Mm.
I'm not surrounded by like-minded individuals. And I would be better off, like, if there was that kind of, but you know what? You can't change other people, right?
Mm.
You change yourself. So that's how I changed myself. And it's just more of like you know, keep going. And this is the time to take advantage of things. And you know
So
what? I like when it comes to workouts, like, you remember I sent you we were doing the exercise library and how fat I looked in those videos. I'm like, man, this is so not me. Can you hold on a second? Anyways, just challenges, right? So, so you know, getting back to it. Uh, yeah, I'm surrounded by family, and people think that, what, hey, what, you must not be getting lonely, and um, they're with people around you and stuff like that. But I'm just like, what, for me, it really didn't matter if I was alone or if I was with people. Like, I'm just one of those people who will get shit done, and
yeah.
always keep moving. That whether it's 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., like there's literally last night at 6 a.m. I can't sleep because I'm thinking of this. And I'm like, fuck, I've been working like the whole day.
Yeah.
And it's just that's just the person that I am, right? Taking a step back. But yeah, that's pretty much the answer to your question. Like, I don't have any challenges. I don't face any issues like motivating myself to work out. It's just motivating other people and just having that support system around you, which it's
It's
it's a little tough. Like, yeah, there's, Sana does help with a lot of, like, the cooking and helping with the business and stuff. So I will give credit where credit's due. She's making such amazing food these days. So that's one thing off my plate, and she generally cooks healthy. But other than that, like, you would want to be surrounded by people who actually take this stuff seriously and, like, their own health and well-being seriously.
mm. I think one of the other things that I imagine being challenging is when you're with your family and you're running the business out of the house and you all work together. There's that
Yeah.
no separation of, like, personal life and work life, and there's no, like, time for just me. Whereas, like, usually, like, going to the gym is that time where you get, like, a bit of time to, like, sort of separate,
Yeah.
I think. And so is that something that you found has
Nope.
been hard?
Let's think. It's like I'm a different breed, right? You know that. Like, I'm not. I don't see that. Like, I see efficiency, right? Like, I can. I see efficiency in this whole thing. I see less time spent on the road, less time spent, like, in the elevator waiting for that damn elevator in our new office. Like, less time, going out for lunch, less time, commuting to the warehouse gym. Like, that's how I see it, right? Which
Mm.
is, again, if I see it, I'm sure, like, at least 5% of the population see it the same way, right?
5%.
So, I
Not
mean,
a very large.
we're pretty rare people who see things this way.
Well,
We're
I
unique.
found like personally the challenge has been for me just being motivated to train. Like I'm super excited about all this, like I'm learning so many things, I've been doing so many courses, but the challenge has been to like be motivated to train when I like I'm feeling like just there's so much to do all the time. It feels like just um, another thing to try and fit in,
Hmm.
which seems also almost crazy because, like you said, we're cutting out the commute. I'm not having to run back and forth. I'm doing less hours of like coaching clients. So I actually have loads more hours to work on like the projects that we're working on.
Yeah.
Um, but I still feel like there's this like endless amount of work to be doing. And so I get into this like hole of
But you know what? I
work
think
and it's
I don't think that this is something that I've been like, listening to like other entrepreneurs and stuff, of our era and the ones of like you are now entering the era of like being an entrepreneur, right? Like with
mm,
even though like it's with uh slow and steady, but like you're entering the world of being an entrepreneur. You're entering the world of like, okay, now um like I know this is going to go out there, but like 70% of the entire 70 to 75% of the entire responsibility of Shiro is on your shoulders,
mm,
right? I'm going to support you in every way possible. The team is going to support you in every way possible. 70 to 75% is definitely you,
yeah,
right?
that's what
So, and when you have a way of things that are like there's a way things are done in your head, and um, you're one of those people from who only wants to get better, who only wants to put out more and more and more and better content, better energy out into the universe, right? So it there's always going to be like when one task finishes, there's always going to be another task that is pending, or hey, I should have done this, hey, I should have done that, or I need to do this,
I
or I
think.
need to do that.
I think the
But
interesting point that you just made is that like all of it is expenditure of my energy.
mhm.
So like anytime that I'm having to create and like um, work on like this, it feels like a birthing of a child.
Yeah, but you see, but
Um,
that's the thing. Like I had this conversation with someone else the other day,
I'm
and
not
go
finished
on.
my point.
Okay, cool, cool, cool.
Um, so for me, because it's requiring that energy, it means that I have to prioritize even more the
Hmm.
stuff that gives energy back to me. That's why prioritizing meditating every morning as soon as I wake up, making sure that I do make the time to train, um, and train in ways that are like rejuvenating for me, not taking away my energy, making time to get into the sun, um, making time to get onto calls with people who inspire me. Like all of those are things that help build me up so I have the energy to produce.
So I think that would be a really good segment too. I mean, you make a very valid point, right? I'm just gonna go on a little segment where it's like, um, again, I'm gonna continue what I'm saying is that you're now an entrepreneur, right? And the work doesn't stop at a 9 to 5, right?
Mm,
You know that, and I know that. I know that I've learned this the hard way, right? So it's not a 9 to 5 job like what we're used to, or like a 9 to 6 or a 9 to 7 like everyone's used to. It's 24/7 round the clock. Like someone's calling you from India, someone's calling you from like Australia, someone's calling you from the UK. Like this needs to be done, that needs to be done. A workshop is run at X like time in like London, and which is like 2 a.m. or here, and some troubleshooting needs to be done, right? Who are they going to call? So um, the you made a very good point that you need to prioritize the stuff that's going to give you energy, because it is so like I've fallen prey to this so many times, like and you've kept me under check, that like I've let work consume my life, and consume all the energy, which like I can go on for like 16 hours a day, and I have like I'd be like, hey, I still got a shitload to go, or got a shitload done. I got so much more to do. Um, I could just keep working, but as you just suggested, like taking out the time to do stuff that helps you recoup, or like to regenerate that energy. I mean, yeah, and that I think that that can lead into another segment which we talked about yesterday, about like eating right, sleeping right, working out, meditating. Doing those mindful processes. But
Mm.
I think you made a very valid point, and I feel like just because my workouts are now 6 to 7 days a week, I'm eating fucking clean. And you know what? And for lack of a better way, we're intermittent fasting, right?
Mm. Well,
So
Ramadan does that for you.
the thing, we're intermittent fasting, so the body feels cleaner. The body feels a little bit more like the digestive tract is digesting things better. It's feeling like it has some rest from, like, constantly putting either coffee or nuts or salads or whatever it is that you're putting into your mouth. So yeah, definitely. Again, I remember I said I was going off on a whole different tangent. So
You're good on your
let's
tangent.
let's go Earth to like Earth to us. But I think yeah, we're both almost like two ends of like the spectrum. I think that's why we work well together, but we have similar ideologies and we have like similar thoughts. But like like lifestyle wise, we're like two ends of like the spectrum, right? Um, so I think this conversation is great because it gives you two very different like views on like what things are going on. One is like surrounded by people, like four people all day long, and one is like totally, alone. How are you dealing with the loneliness though?
Um, I found that I have at least one day a week where I feel like really, really low. Um, and it's like everything, like energetically, like it's this like weight on the body, in the chest, and it's like really just then physically low energy. Um, and like no motivation, and like really like a missing contact with people.
Mhm.
um, and I find like that at least once a week I have a day like that where it's like just like moving out of bed like feels hard, and like that's normally a day where I'm like, screw it, I'm gonna like binge watch some television, or um, I've got a few like weekly calls that I've scheduled in with people. um, so that's kind of helped with um, just feeling connected to people. So I have like a group of girlfriends I catch up with on a Friday morning, and we have like a weekly breakfast meeting. So it's like we have breakfast and we chat about life and whatever's come up in the week for us. And then I've got like a few people that I call for like accountability during the week, and we just sort of touch base and we talk about business and we talk about, sort of personal stuff that's coming up for us. And that sort of has helped me to keep focused and a bit more grounded. And then I'm doing a lot of like breath work and emotional release sort of stuff to just allow myself to be in my body and feel the stuff. Because like it was one day last week, I felt really unsettled. I had this pain in my back from the moment I woke up, and as soon as I got up, I just started doing stuff. I like started working, and I like till about like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, when I finally stopped and I was like, okay, I have to train now. I just have to train. And I still hadn't properly checked in with my body. And so what I've been doing as the start of my training now is I put a song on, that just I can move to. And while the song's on, I just sort of move however it feels good for my body.
Mhm.
And when I started doing that, and I like close my eyes and I try to be present in like what is the experience in my body in that moment. And I just started bawling my eyes out. It was like, suddenly it was like whatever had been holding all day, that like emotion that was in my body, that I'd been like suppressing and just being busy and trying to ignore, by literally just stopping and feeling and allowing just what was happening in my body to happen. I just like bawled my eyes out. It was like 15 minutes later, I'd had a really good cry and I felt so much better. So I think for me, the important part has been like having those touchstones, like people that I know I can reach out with and just be vulnerable with, and then allowing myself to like feel whatever comes up, have been like so incredibly important for me not having like a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, that's, I think, it's something that we all admire about you, that, you know, you're in touch with those feelings, you're doing something about it, right? It's like when, like, I'm probably gonna paint like everyone with the same paintbrush. When it comes to like the Indians or like the Desis, or like, you know, you want to call it the Southeast Asians or South Asians or whatever it is. But it's like generally the way we're taught is more about like when you do feel something of like sadness, or like you do feel like you're down, you just you're taught to just shrug it off and move forward. You're taught to just like, you know, it's just like, hey, if you don't run faster than someone else, the other person's gonna beat you.
That is not just, that's a global, I could call that a global crisis of its own, is that globally we are taught that just like not to feel, like we're told, like boys are told that they shouldn't cry, girls are told that they should just be quiet and smile and be nice, and we're told that like if we make noise, if we are expressive, if we show that we care about things, if we like really show that like something hurts us, or any of those things, like we're told that it's wrong and that it's shameful, and all of those negative connotations come from expressing how you feel. So most of us like were raised that way. Like I was raised, you know, in a conservative Christian family, and I was told, you know, that you should be nice and you should make people feel comfortable to be around you, and you shouldn't like you should alter your behavior to make sure that people around you feel good. And it's rather than, well, how do you feel? And are you allowed
but don't you think like that kind of goes like two ways?
I think there's multiple things here. I think it is important to know how to behave around people,
Correct.
And it's important to know how to adapt your behavior to suit a situation.
Correct.
Because you don't be an asshole. Like,
but that's the thing. I think people misconstrue that to like in those social settings. Like,
so this is the problem. So we're told that if you express emotion, that'll make people uncomfortable, and it will, because if you and I have both been taught that it's not okay to cry and that it's not okay to express being sad, when we see it being expressed, that makes us uncomfortable because we've been told it's wrong. So it's because someone's doing something that we've been told that we're not allowed to do, so that will, as a result, make us feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So it's not because it's wrong, it's because of how we've been conditioned. So yes, expressing emotion in front of a lot of people, it's going to bring up our own insecurity. So I was raised that, you know, that we don't express emotion. Like you don't tell someone that you're having a fight. Like I never saw my parents have an argument in front of me, even though they got divorced. So clearly there were fights going on, but I never ever saw one, which meant I never saw a healthy argument. So when I see people having an argument, that makes me really uncomfortable, because I haven't learned how to, that can be a healthy expression of communication.
Yeah.
So at the same time, if I've never learned that I can cry and that that's a healthy way to express energy that's in my body, because we all have like laughing and crying and shaking and screaming and making noise are all ways that we can use. Breath work and other things are ways that we can move energy out of our body, which is essentially what emotion is. But if I've been taught that those things are not okay, when I see someone else doing it, it's going to make me very uncomfortable.
That's very true. The way you put that, it makes 100% sense, right?
So yes, there are times like I know
No, it
that
goes
there
another
are
way
people,
as well. Sorry, go on, go on. I'll
so
tell you
like
another
I
instance
know
first.
that there are people who would feel very uncomfortable if I like I'm not going to go and talk about all my personal things in front of people who I don't know. But and there are times that like it's not appropriate to like start getting super personal or to like bringing out things. If you're in a business meeting, it might not be the appropriate time. So there is like you have to choose places where it's a safe environment, where you know you're going to be supported, but at the same time, it's like it's something that you need to train as well, because it's going to be very uncomfortable when you've never learnt to express.
Yeah, and I think it goes in another way as well for like I'm just going to relate it to like the business acumen or like the business uh, work ethic that I have. I think that I inherently got from my dad, right? So it's like he would go to work at 6 a.m., come back at like 11, 12, and it was okay to work that late. It was okay to like put all the energy there. And I think um, the whole idea is like work hard, put in the hours, and results will come, right?
Mm.
So, you know, being raised by that philosophy, around that philosophy, and then um, I think that's what I faced in Canada, right? So it's like, um, so in personal training world, right? Our like success or how good we were was based on primarily on how many hours you would complete in a month of like
Mm.
paid PT hours
Mm.
and what kind of sales you did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one more variable, which was how many times you're seeing your clients, which
Mm-hmm.
was called trainer efficiency TE, right?
Mm-hmm.
So um, this was a gold mine for me and one of my best friends who was Korean, who was brought up the same way, is that you work your fucking ass off 24/7. So we were always neck and neck. We were hitting sometimes 13, 14 PTs a day, like 13, 14 hours of PT a day, which no one's ever heard of, no one's ever seen. We were seeing people like 5 times a week as a trainer efficiency, right?
So,
And then, sorry, go on.
yeah, the problem with that is at some point you burn out.
So yeah, hold on a second. Okay.
Like,
Just on a side note, we went for 4 years straight. Like that way, none of us burned out. It's just the way we were raised, right?
no,
We
no.
didn't burn out. But hold on.
Yeah, but you were also, how old were you?
Like 21, 22.
Yeah. The shit I could do at 21, 22 versus now, there's
Yeah,
no
so
way you could do that
all
now.
right. So the whole thing was so okay, both of us are immigrants, right? We've been brought up by like very like conservative, very like strict parents, right? And we're in this society which is like totally open where, you know, there's some people who don't even give a shit about the job. They're just coming in, like they have tremendous potential. They're doing like 1 hour a day, 2 hours a day, like fooling their clients left, right, and center, going to like pubs in the middle of the afternoon where they could be working. And this was totally like, and there's also some people who are just working the minimum, like basic, like 6, 7 hours a day and then going home and they're happy. Right. So for us, like we've been surrounded by people who are just fucking workaholics all day long.
Mm.
And for us to see this was like a whole culture shock.
So what did you take from that?
Yeah, so the feeling with that was like, what the hell are these people doing? Like, don't they value like what they have? And you know, over the years, once I got into like management and you learn to respect everyone else's culture. You learn to respect everyone else's work ethic. You learn to respect everyone else's space, personal time. So I'm not going to say that, you know what, hey, I learned to value my own like personal time, because that's not something that happened. It just happened automatically. But it's like when.
No, but you say it happened automatically, but you had like
Okay, I think it was priorities, right? So at that time, priorities was like, shit, we're broke. Let's make some money. Let's get to the top of the industry, right? So that was priority there, right? Priority was not like, hey, I need to have my downtime. I need to have my like, you know. Yes, we went out with our friends like once a week to the movies or like to cinema, like, you know, to have a nice dinner. But that's pretty much it, right? But like the priority at that time was, we want to be the best that we can be in that company, and we need to get out of this fucking poverty situation, because I didn't take money from my dad, so I always wanted to make my own money. I think it's priorities, right? And then we never really even looked at that side of life. Later on, that came when the money started coming in, and we started getting like, when both of us got like, you know, our income started to get better, and like we were starting to make six figures, and like, you know, we were like, ah, fuck it, okay, yeah, let me just learn to play the violin. Let me spend some personal, like, let me learn to dance. Let me learn to, like, you know, then we started taking salsa classes. Then like, hey, I want to learn martial arts. Started learning martial priorities, right?
I think this is part of that conversation is, firstly, it's you do what you have to out of necessity. So when you were starting out in the industry and you were struggling to pay your bills, the necessity was that you had to work as much as possible. You needed to get the experience. You needed to, you know, in the beginning, you're not getting paid an amazing hourly rate. Like, it takes time so you can justify charging clients more. So you're required to do more hours to earn more. Now, I think anyone who starts out in an industry is going to be that way, like that wants to be successful. I've done many, many years of working my ass off. But one of the things I realized when I first started doing coaching work was that, more like personal coaching work, not training coaching, was that I had this limiting belief from the way I'd been raised, because my parents had always worked long hours. They'd always been trying, you know, we didn't come from money. My parents were very poor when I was young, and they had to work to try and develop their careers and whatever else. And, you know, we couldn't have help in the house, so it was like one parent would work during the day and the other one would work a night job so that they could provide for us, and still have someone there looking after us. And then you know, like even as a teenager, I remember my mum, there was some debt that came up, and mum didn't want to be in debt, so she was working a full-time job and then took night shifts in a bar to try and earn money as quickly as possible to pay off the debt. Like, that's like
your mum is phenomenal.
So, like, I was raised by people who, it was like, you work hard, but I also realized I had a belief that you had to struggle and you still probably wouldn't have money. So my belief was that work had to be hard and you have to work a lot of hours all the time. Now, that's been something that I've had to really readdress and realize that, like I like to be busy. I like to be working hard. I like to be doing stuff that like motivates me, but it doesn't have to always be hard, and it doesn't have to always be a struggle.
Yeah.
But part of learning that was like, I had to do it. I had to do the years where I was like working, you know, those days from 6 in the morning until like 9 at night, and doing months and months without having a day off, and working myself into the ground until I got sick before I went.
This brings you up on a whole different tangent. Like, this is like, again, we're like, you know, those people who are like, they desperately need the money and they have all the skills to make the money, but they still struggle to not prioritize that money making or they fail to prioritize taking care of their customers or their business first, and it's more about like, oh my god, I'm going through so much, oh my god, I have to, it's that whole victim attitude 24/7, which again, as you know, and there's nothing to each their own, right? I mean, if there's victims, there's also go-getters. Like, there's always going to be opposites, right? So but that is just something that brought up, like, how you're raised as to, like, and hey, you gotta fucking hustle. And yes, you were raised by like, okay, or your thought process was more on the lines of like, it has to be hard and you're never going to have enough. But for me, it was, what, I have to hustle hard, and one day I will have enough to do whatever I wanted to do, right? So
and that's what the thing for me was, realizing that I could have enough, and also realizing that it doesn't have to be hard. Like, yes, you can work hard, and there are times where you need to work hard and you need to do long hours, but it shouldn't always be a fight.
Yeah.
If it is, I feel like that's a sign that there's something out of alignment. There's something that's not like, that's not the way it should be for.
That's it. You gotta love what you do, right? And I'm gonna make this very clear for a lot of people who want to start their own business, that like, loving what you do means loving your business and every aspect of it, right? You're not gonna. No one loves accounts. No one loves doing admin
Well, some people do. Accountants.
Right? Well, as an entrepreneur, right? Yeah. So, come on. Okay.
There are some people that do it for a living.
Yeah, I get it. So I mean, you get my point, right?
In your business, you don't like,
You get my point, right? So it's like, I'm just taking my example. Like, I hate the accounts. I hate the admin stuff. I hate like the there's like, and there's shit tons, right? Like, there's 24/7. It's always going to continue. You got to take the good with the bad, right?
I think that's where being in alignment with purpose, and understanding that sort of underlying, like, how you're trying to serve people.
One second. At the end, there's not every aspect of your business that you're gonna love, right? But that's what it comes down to. It's like, you have to love what you do. Like, there's a lot of things about like Shiro, or when you were head of the CrossFit stuff, or you're working as a PT. There's a lot of stuff that you don't like, right? There's a lot of stuff that you hate, but you love what you do. Right. You and you just find ways of getting it done. And then when you have the opportunity to get someone else to do it or delegate that work, you take advantage of that till you get to that point. Fucking shut up and do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know why I was saying this, because I totally lost track in the middle of like living in this household. But that's exactly what, like, that is the challenge, right? Of like, we're in the middle of a work day, right? So it's not really, and essentially this is what we do, right? We shoot videos, we make media, and it's that constant like bothering and constant disruption to the workflow that I would say is the biggest challenge to work. I'm not say workouts, because I'm training at like 12:31 at night these days, so no one's really bothering me at 12:31 at night. But like, it's just the workflow that gets bothered. Like, you remember how great we were doing when we had the office? Like, every single day, even if it was 4 or 5 hours together, 6 hours, we were fucking.
Yeah. The thing I'm finding interesting, I know, like, from like being in the house with the family, that's like, oh my God. But I have definitely found that being home, not having to commute anywhere, means I've got like so much more time to focus on things.
Efficiency.
Like, and it's like, I don't have to get up before 5 to get to a client in the morning. Like my
You
first
still wake
client,
up at 5. Anyway.
no, but like my first client, I can get up 15 minutes before and be present and doing my job. I don't have to like get up an hour before to get myself to the gym. You know what I mean? And then,
Likewise.
and then I don't have the commute to the office, and I don't have like the like other like things that I have to drive through to in
Yeah, I
the
mean,
day.
if you take on an average, right, like the average human being probably in Dubai drives what, around 3 to 4 hours a day,
Mm.
at least.
So it's like that's so much time saved.
And effort, like, and energy too. Like
Yeah.
driving in a city it's not easy. Like, it's
No.
stressful to a certain degree, right? It's like you're fucking yelling at people, you're swearing at people are cutting you off.
Yeah.
There's heat, there's traffic, like,
So the thing that this has reaffirmed for me, like you know how we had that conversation a while back about like what our like 3 to 5 year goal was, and I was like, I want to be able to work remote, and I want to be able to live somewhere, work from home, and just travel when I need to. And this is like 100% confirmed that like I'm totally happy having a little setup and being able to work, and not having to like run around to stuff all the time. Like I miss seeing humans,
yeah.
but it's not to a point of like if I was able to go out and catch up with people a few times a week, that would be more than enough for me.
I see, like, and I feel the same way too. Like, I think, even of course now we have an office and stuff. Thing is that it's a tiny office, right? Like, where we have like only 3 or 4 people in it who we trust each other, and we know that we're just going to shut up and do our work, and we're all doing the same work, so it makes a lot of sense. But like, definitely see how like, cutting out the driving, more and more people are going to be staying at home because it makes their lives a little bit more efficient. They can work in their pajamas. They can, did you see what was that news anchor in the morning? So you remember Christopher Reeve, like Superman, long time ago, like old school Superman, Christopher Reeve, like his son or something. He was giving a presentation on like ABC News or something, and he had like a full suit on top and like he was in his boxers below, and accidentally the camera like he was giving this interview from his house, and like accidentally the camera like moved to his or you could see his boxers.
That is like the biggest fail. Like if you're
Right.
going to be on national news.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's made people a lot more comfortable. I like the fact that we're at home. Of course, you have more time with the family. You're saving time on driving. Yes, going a little crazy with like everything, but the efficiency is so much better. Like, it's given us a chance to take a step back and reevaluate so many different parts of our life. But yeah, I don't remember where we were going with this, because we started off on like
yeah, I think this whole like thing that we should just put up as on YouTube,
just a conversation. Yeah.
But yeah, we can also, this is perfect opportunities to get the podcast online.
Right? Should we call it Digressing with Ray and Jesse?
Random thoughts.
Random thoughts.